distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon or good evening, depending on your location. My name is Susumu Yoneoka, Energy Specialist of Smart Grid at ADB. I'd like to MC first half of this deep dive workshop. So it's my pleasure to welcome you in this deep dive workshop titled Collaborative Initiatives on Energy System Transition with Innovative Technologies, Policies and Financing, organized by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Government of Japan, and ADB jointly. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us and selecting this DDW. So today is the final day of the ASEF week. I believe you've already had a fruitful time from Monday to yesterday, but I promise this DDW will also be informative and help your future business grow and succeed in energy sector. So since this DDW will focus on collaborative initiatives, as this DDW title says, which involve in governments and international organizations, and also in private sectors. Private sector includes investors, financiers, technology providers, consulting firms, EPCs, etc., etc. So the speakers and panelists will highlight development and deployment of innovative technologies by improving policy and institutional framework, utilizing public and private financing, and promoting international cooperation through multinational initiatives. So to begin and open this deep dive workshop, I would like to invite Dr. Yongpin Zai, Chief of Energy Sector Group, ADB, for the opening remarks. Yongpin, may I hand over to you?
Thank you, Susumu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, participants, panelists. On behalf of Asian Development Bank, I would like to extend a warm welcome to the Asian Clean Energy Forum. As part of this forum, we have honored to have this workshop organized together with METI on the collaborative initiatives on energy system transition with innovative technologies, policies, and financing. First of all, I wish everyone keeping safe and stay healthy under the current situation. But I think we can focus on discussing very serious issues on the energy transition. I appreciate METI and Government of Japan for their contribution to this year's ASEF in many ways. But beyond ASEF, we have very good collaboration with Japan, METI, between ADB and METI. For example, that in recent years, every year around February, March, we go to Tokyo to have a workshop in Tokyo to organize discussions on new innovations, technologies, new business models, and also visit Tokyo big site of World Smart Energy Week and looking for the latest technologies. So that's every year refreshing in Japan, and also each time in Tokyo, I will pay a visit to METI or NEDO with high-level officials to exchange views, and also honored to have METI NEDO officials to attend our workshop. So this is just one example, but I have many of such good collaboration with METI and many other partners. For example, we launched last year ADB's very first Technology Innovation Challenge. We invited technology providers to submit proposals for 3 key challenges in the area of clean heating, efficient cooling, sustainable energy, renewable energy-based microgrids, and artificial intelligence for energy demand management. All these technologies, we have invited companies to submit the proposals. We received about 100 of them. The selection process is ongoing. We expect a selected proposed project team will be start their work in the second half of this year. I want to highlight this initiative. This challenge, innovation challenge, is funded by ADB's high-level technology fund with contribution of Government of Japan. And this year, as the pandemic started, we realized that the centralized air conditioning system may have some risks to be assessed in public buildings. So we propose to launch a technical assistance study activity on the centralized air conditioning system to make them meeting the high hygiene standard and also energy efficiency standard. Again, this technical assistance is funded by high-level technology fund with support of government of Japan. I would like also to mention that we are here today, the Clean Energy Initiative, this Clean Energy Future Initiative in ASEAN. This is one area that we'll learn more today, but I will just mention that we had a good collaboration when this forum was held first in Manila. We are honored to be part of that. We would like to continue this support to ASEAN through our contribution as part of also METI's initiative. Lastly, before I close my these opening remarks, I would like to mention that ADB is currently undertaking an update of its energy policy approved in 2009. That's about 11 years ago. I think there are many reasons that we have to assess the relevance of this decade-old energy policy. For that, we need the consultation with stakeholders. We seek input from all stakeholders on the future energy policy directions for ADB. I started a conversation with the NGOs. That was broadcast on live on the Facebook. I would like to continue this dialogue today with developing member countries in other forum today during this afternoon. But I would like to say here, every workshop we have here, including the one today on the different initiatives, I think I take this also as inputs from for our energy policy, because we need to know what is the requirement of the Asian developing countries that needed ADB support, and what is the latest technologies, innovation business models, and financing instruments that are available to us to support this initiative. So this forum, this workshop can be also a good input for our energy policy update and review. I appreciate, again, METI's initiative in organizing this workshop, very helpful for our developing countries in Asia, but also very helpful for ADB to shape its energy policy. So finally, lastly, I would like to assure that we continue to strengthen our cooperation with all stakeholders. We appreciate, in particular, the collaboration with METI, and for the collaborative initiatives and energy system transition with innovative technologies, policies, and financing as the theme of this workshop today. I believe this workshop will be very beneficial to our developing countries throughout Asia and beyond. And this is, as I said, very helpful for ADB policy shaping, and make this a great knowledge event. And we can learn a lot of lessons and share this knowledge everywhere. Once again, I thank you for joining this workshop and wish you very productive discussions this morning. I'll be listening in the background. Thank you very much. Back to you, Susumu.
Thank you, Yongping, for the wonderful remarks, highlighting on collaboration, continuous cooperation between METI and ADB, and also all stakeholders for future energy sector development. Thank you again. So next, let's move on to the keynote address. May I invite Mr. Takashi Omote, Deputy Director General for Industrial Science, Technology, and Environmental Policy, METI, Japan. So may I hand over to Omote-san?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for your kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I want to extend my deepest sympathies to all people affected by COVID-19. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the Asian Development Bank for organizing this forum in such a difficult situation and for giving us this great opportunity to conduct this workshop. I also would like to thank all the participants in this workshop. Today, I'd like to explain how Japan plans to work together with you to address the climate change issue. While tackling this issue, Japan would like to take actions based on the concept of the virtuous cycle of the environment and growth. The virtuous cycle of the environment and growth is a concept Japan proposed last year as holder of the G20 presidency. The concept is rooted in the observation that environmentally conscious businesses have easier access to finances, grow more rapidly, and are then able to solve environmental issues more effectively. All leaders at the G20 Osaka Summit unanimously endorsed this concept. I think that this concept has become more relevant to the world in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. So what is necessary to materialize this concept? We believe that the following 3 points are critical. 1, promoting disruptive innovation. 2, promoting green finance. And 3, promoting business-led international cooperation and collaboration. Let me briefly explain these 3 points. The first point, essential for realizing the virtuous cycle of the environment and growth, is promoting disruptive innovation. Simple innovation is not sufficient. We need disruptive innovation. For example, in 1977, the cost of photovoltaic panels, PV panels, was $76 per watt. However, it is now less than 30 cents per watt, which is just 0.004% of the original cost, and they are used everywhere to produce energy from sunlight. We need this kind of disruptive innovation. To develop innovative technology by 2050, we published the Environment Innovation Strategy this January. This strategy aims to accomplish the Beyond Zero emissions goal, which changes the trajectory of the greenhouse gas emissions from positive to negative. To accelerate such innovation, we founded the Global Zero Emissions Research Center this January. We appointed Dr. Yoshino, last year's Nobel Prize winner, as the director of this center. We intend to make this center a center of excellence to promote international joint research on cutting-edge technology with researchers and scientists around the world, and to contribute to solutions for global challenges. One of the innovative technologies we highlight in the Environment Innovation Strategy is a CCUS technology. CCUS can reduce carbon dioxide emissions on a large scale. In reality, many countries in Asia still need to use fossil fuels to gain access to energy at a reasonable cost. CCUS is expected to accomplish both energy access and decarbonization. The carbon dioxide reservoir potential in each ASEAN country is estimated, as shown, to be around 10 billion tons of carbon dioxide. In Japan, we conducted the first large-scale CCS demonstration project in Tomakomai City, Hokkaido. This project achieved 300,000 tons cumulative injection. It's the world's first offshore CCS project, which injects carbon dioxide from offshore into an offshore reservoir in a busy port area of the city. CCS experience and technology acquired through this project can be utilized for deployment of CCUS across Asia. In addition, research and development on cost reduction and safety of CCUS are now being conducted. As shown in the environmental innovation strategy, we aim to reduce the cost of capturing carbon dioxide from the current 4,000 yen per ton of carbon dioxide to 1,000 yen per ton by 2050. In US dollars, this is from $37 to $9 per ton. Our CCUS expert will explain the details later in this session. The other innovative technology we are interested in is hydrogen-related technology. Hydrogen can be produced with renewable energy without emitting carbon dioxide, or by using fossil fuels combined with CCS. Many countries are looking at the potential of hydrogen to decarbonize energy, mobility, and industry. Japan is now working to develop technologies and create markets for hydrogen production, transportation, and storage in order to realize a hydrogen-based society. For example, in December 2019, the world's first liquefied hydrogen carrier ship was launched, and in March 2020, the Fukushima Hydrogen Energy Research Field was opened, which was equipped with one of the world's largest water electrolysis systems, a hydrogen production system. In addition, joint development of fuel cell trucks has commenced in private companies, and the demonstration test run of fuel cell hydrogen train will be conducted in the future. As such, hydrogen-related initiatives are being accelerated in many sectors in Japan. In Asia, we are conducting a demonstration project to establish an international hydrogen supply chain with Brunei. We also support AREA in analyzing the potential of hydrogen in the Asian region. We'd like to continue our efforts to engage in Asian economies to explore further cooperation in the field of hydrogen. The second point essential for realizing the virtuous cycle of the environmental growth is promoting green finance. IEA estimated that about $59 to $71 trillion of investments are needed globally by 2040 to achieve the Paris Agreement goals. So, it is important to mobilize private finances for business entities that actively pursue climate transitions. Effective disclosures of climate-related information plays a vital role in realizing this. We believe that the recommendation report by the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, or TCFD, is very vital, suitable. We held the first TCF summit in Tokyo last year with world-leading figures from the business and financing sectors. For example, Mr. Charles Holiday, the chairman of Royal Dutch Shell, and Mr. McCartney, the governor of the Bank of England, attended the forum. Furthermore, we believe that it is important to promote financing not only for existing decarbonized or low carbonized activities, but also for transition projects within GHG emissions industries and sectors towards the goal of decarbonization or low carbonization. In this regard, we have made Japan's proposal to the International Capital Market Association, or ICMA. It is currently working on a new set of principles for transition finance. We would very much like to collaborate with our Asian friends to promote transition finance so that we can achieve a smooth and inclusive transition in Asia. We will hold the second TCFD summit as a virtual meeting this autumn. I hope we will be able to share more progress with you at that time. The last point essential for realizing the virtuous cycle of the environment and growth is developing appropriate business environments through international cooperation and collaboration. In the energy sector, in Asian countries, Japan has been conducting demonstration projects and implementing capacity buildings, for example, by training energy managers. Further, we need to accelerate business-led efforts to enhance international collaboration. For this purpose, last September, At the ASEAN +3 ministers meeting on energy, the ministers supported the cleaner energy future in Asia, Sofia. We'd like to make a carbon society by using that. We'll implement various activities to construct policy and institutional frameworks to deploy innovative, low carbon or clean energy technology with collaboration between public and private sectors. Last November, the first Sofia Government-Private Forum was held here in Manila in cooperation with the government of the Philippines and with strong support of the ASEAN Center for Energy and the Asian Development Bank. We hope to organize the second Sofia Government-Private Forum this year. In cooperation with Dr. Utama, Executive Director of the ASEAN Center for Energy, who is attending this workshop, will actively develop and implement Sofia activities to enhance international collaboration for energy system transitions. During this deep dive workshop today, the best practices of low carbon technology deployment, strategy for the creation of appropriate business environments, and penetration of green finance in Asia will be shared and discussed. After this workshop, I hope that relevant activities will be carried out and accelerated towards realization of a decarbonized society. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Many thanks for Omote-san for the valuable presentation, highlighting the importance of international collaboration as well as financing and innovation. So, and also introducing examples of innovative technology areas, CCUS and hydrogen. So ADB as a development bank, I can say we are happy to strengthen our cooperation to enhance investment by attracting private sector and public financing. So thank you again. So following the excellent Omote-san's keynote address, so let's move on to the presentation part. This part has 5 excellent speakers. So I'd like to invite first speaker, Dr. Nuki Aguya Utama, Executive Director, ASEAN Center for Energy. So may I hand over to you, Dr. Utama?
Thank you very much, Susumu-san, for the nice introduction. And thank you very much for Omote-san for the opening remarks. And thank you for ADB and METI as a whole for organizing this deep dive workshop. As mentioned before, the role of ASEAN Center for Energy is being presented before by Omote-san. And then we will later on, I will explain a bit on the activities on Sofia. So we do have a lot of activities on the promoting the energy transition in ASEAN. As you may see in the slide that we, next slide. Technical problem, I cannot move to the next slide. Okay. Yeah. In fact, to start from the broader view at ASEAN level, that the ASEAN Economic Community, or AEC, blueprint in 2025 under the B8 session, that's economic development, mentioning that sustainable energy is integral to ASEAN growth strategy. And following the next strategy on C4 energy to enhance the activities, connectivity and sectoral cooperation, strategic measures that correspond to the 7 program areas of the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Cooperation, or we call it APAC. So those are the blueprint of 2025 ASEAN Economic Community, which as a background of the activities in energy. Following the specific energy transition towards sustainable development, an IEC priority economic deliverable in 2020, the 2020 ASEAN Chairmanship, Vietnam, under priority of economic deliverables, setting a scope on the development of clean energy system through regional cooperation in ASEAN to accelerate the deployment of renewable energy and further increase energy efficiency as well as conservation. Hence, enhancing implementation of energy transition towards sustainable development. So those are the key inputs, then including the recommendation developed under APEC Phase 2 on energy transition towards sustainable development. Those are the roles of sustainable energy and APEC in AEC, as explaining where the APEC comes from. And then if you're looking at all those perspectives, the energy transition becomes one of the key regional development agenda through the APEC. A bit information on the APEC that we do have 7 program area, which is consisting of the ASEAN Power Grid, we call it APG, Trans-ASEAN Gas Pipeline or TAGP, Clean Coal Technology, CCT, Energy Efficiency and Conservation, Renewable Energy, Regional Energy Policy and Planning, as well as the Civilian Nuclear Energy or CNE. For the first one that we've been through since 2016 up to this year, main theme is the enhancing energy connectivity and market integration in ASEAN to achieve energy security, accessibility, affordability, and sustainability for all. And then following on those main theme, we do have the sub-theme, which will be executed on the second phase, starting next year up until 2025. The sub-theme that we have and we propose for the next year is the accelerating energy transition and strengthening energy resilience through greater innovation and cooperation. So those energy transition is already there, and we're going to be focusing on the next phase of APEC. Moving on the AMEN, from the ASEAN Ministry of Energy meeting, the ASEAN role in the global energy transition, which discussed last year in AMEN, and they discussed global energy transformation, a path to sustainability for Southeast Asia. AMEN expressed the need to 1. Identify potential RE in ASEAN. Secondly, provide recommendation on RE technology and job securities and opportunities, as well as the insight on a competitive RE target for the region and how to achieve the ASEAN RE target. And then therefore the energy transition is there and also being recognized by all the energy ministers from IMS. Looking at the progress that we have, the ASEAN Center of Energy monitoring the progress regularly. You see here that the RE target as well as the energy intensity target. The RE target, we still have a big gap on the current target. Currently, we do have a 14.3%. And then we are going to the 23% target in 2025. While in the energy intensity reduction through TPS from 2005 level, we surpasses the target. Currently, we have a 24.4% reduction comparing to the baseline year in 2005. And we're going to continue to reduce up until 30% in 2025. Hence, the ASEAN member state asking us to do more in terms of the energy intensity target. So we're still discussing the next target during this year preparation on the next phase of APEC Phase 2. So what the ASEAN Center for Energy doing in terms of the energy transition? We do have some of the activities as you see here. For example, the smart grid concept. The smart grid concept, demand side management, regulation, electricity vehicles, smart metering, and cybersecurity. We do have ASEAN Initiative program for 5 years. And also clean coal technology in power generation, carbon capture and storage, reducing coal consumption, therefore reducing non-GHG emission. The activities technologies also consisting of the HELE technology study with the WCA, ACETRI, and then also JCOL studies on the ASEAN CCT. And the CCS concept that we've initiated with the ExxonMobil, and also other international organizations. And those some of the activities that we've been doing on the transition, energy transition in power generation sectors. As also Mr. Omote mentioned before, that we do have quite good cooperation on knowledge sharing as well as the potential on collaborating with the private sectors. The knowledge sharing, knowledge transfer, incubator for new technology and IT enhancements coming from the ASEAN Pacific community. We do have the initiative for ASEAN +3. We're working with the 10 member states, and the benefit for strong partnership, which leads to the efficiency in economic, market, and policy, and for sure the leapfrogging of opportunities, introducing new technologies and innovation, enhancing investment and financing. This initiative will also providing a recognition of policy project partnership investment or PPPI for affordable, cleaner, and sustainable options, and links in to advanced technology deployment through PPP. Therefore, the whole activity is quite interesting for us to go move forward on energy transition. I think that's a short presentation from my side. Since the time is very limited, then we can further discuss on the Q&A discussion, the next activities. So basically, the ASEAN member states under the ASEAN Economic Community, as well as the under our organization, ASEAN Center for Energy, is ready on the energy transition toward lower emission, as well as more activities involving the private sectors. I think that's all coming from my side, Mr. Kusumo. Please continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Utama. Very informative presentation on ASEAN policy framework on energy sector, and introducing ambitious target for renewable energy share and energy intensity reduction among ASEAN countries. Thank you again. So I would like to invite second speaker, Miss Mizuki Saito from METI, Deputy Director, Global Environment Partnership Office, METI Japan. So over to you, Mizuki-san.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mizuki Saito from the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. I take care of international relations and strategies for climate change, as well as COP-related issues. I am very honored to be here today, and I'd like to thank ADB and all those who were taking part in the preparation for this great event. And today, I'd like to give a brief introduction of Sofia, which is a new initiative that was just launched last year in 2019. Although COVID-19 is still a big issue, climate change is one of the major challenges that we face in the world today. Even in the ASEAN region, energy transition and low carbon technology is in need. Closer cooperation between the public and private sectors can help accelerate the implementation of such technology. These needs led to the establishment of Cleaner Energy Future Initiative for ASEAN, or CEFIA. There are three key components to CEFIA's activity. First, the technology. CEFIA works towards the implementation of low-carbon technology, for example, through Flagship projects, which I will touch upon later. Second, CEFIA works with governments and other institutions to implement policies and frameworks that can support the development of low-carbon technology. Third is finance. By showing results of the Flagship projects, CEFIA will attract ESG investments. To achieve results, CEFIA acts as a showcase for new technology, a workplace, meaning that it is not just a place for discussion, but for implementation and creating results, a data bank to create common grounds for discussion, and a linchpin or a platform where public and private players can come together to discuss technology, policy, and finance all together. One of the main activities of CEFIA will be to promote Flagship projects. These are some of the prospective projects. First, on energy efficiency, we have the RainK project, which works with universities to consider policies and implementation of IoT solutions for creating cost-effective plants. Next, on renewable energy, we are considering the adoption of the microgrid project. We will also work on cross-cutting areas, and for example, through the ZEB project, which stands for Zero Energy Buildings, we will work on standardization, such as developing ISOs and quantification. We hope these projects will contribute to the goals of the Action Plan for ASEAN Energy Cooperation Phase 2. As I explained at the very beginning, Sofia is still in its early stage. It was endorsed by APT leaders and ministers in September 2019, and in November, we had our first government-private forum in Manila. And these will be some of our next steps. First, we will be having our second government-private forum, hopefully in fall, and we'd like to ask for understanding and support from ACE, ADB, and other ASEAN Plus 3 countries, and participation from all of you here today. Second, we will be promoting our ongoing flagship projects, but we are always open to new projects as well. The Japanese government will continue our commitment to Sofia through technical support, for example, CCUS, and support for policy development through capacity building. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Mizuki-san. So thank you explaining on the more detailed information on Sofia Initiative, which include the flagship project area, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and microgrid, zero energy buildings. Agree that we need to focus on more demand side area to achieve zero energy building and further energy efficient and further energy efficiency improvement. Thank you again. So next, I would like to invite our third speaker, Ms. Emily Chu, Global Head of Sustainability for Investment Management, Morgan Stanley. Ms. Emily, may I hand over to you?
Thank you, Susuma-san. And it's a pleasure to be with everyone today. I hope you can hear me okay. So I am speaking today on behalf of a global institutional investment manager, very much in the private sector. Morgan Stanley Investment Management is part of the broader Morgan Stanley banking group. We manage over 580 billion AUM globally across a range of different asset classes, as you can see here on my slide. And all of these asset classes are increasingly touching the clean energy innovation space in different ways. And today I'll share some case studies of how some of our investment teams are interacting with this emerging field. Our footprint is very global, so we do have investment teams on the ground in Asia, investing in local markets, but we also have investors in North America and in Europe who are also looking at investing in Asian markets from where they sit. We have a strong commitment to sustainable investing. We have, over the last few years, enhanced and adopted an ESG approach and lens to the way in which we invest. This applies to all of our asset classes. So whether it's in the direct private market investments or the public market investments, we are working with our portfolio managers to enhance and strengthen their understanding of key sustainability drivers in the global economy, how that will feed through to individual, to certain sectors and industries, and ultimately to individual companies and assets. And so I'll move on to, because the time is very short, I'll just move on to a few case studies across different asset classes of how our teams have invested. So last month, we closed on a climate impact solutions fund This fund closed at about $110 million as assets under management. It is managed primarily from London, but invests globally in investment in assets around the world, including in Asia. And the focus for the Climate Impact Solutions Fund is really early stage investments in energy efficiency, software, or later stage opportunities, such as fruit producers with water saving hydroponic irrigation, or various other energy efficiency interventions. And the intention of the Climate Impact Solutions Fund is to address problems from global warming, which include pollution, depleting natural resources, and threats to biodiversity. Now, what's interesting about this fund is that it was actually a solution that we co-created with a client that approached us looking to find an investment solution that would focus on climate change, and particularly with a focus in aiding communities that client was concerned were going to be disproportionately affected by climate change. So this is one of our case studies. It's so the fund is investing in both private equity and debt. And most recently, one of the investments that we made through this fund was in a specialized micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise lender operating in several locations across 13 states in India, particularly focused on supporting 280 industrial clusters. So we thought there was a lot of potential for this lender to scale up their operations and to finance the build out of about 105 megawatts of solar rooftops. So the opportunity in rooftop solar is growing rapidly in India, driven by lower costs and increasing energy demand. And we found that the micro and small to and medium enterprise market remains largely underserved, representing about a 15 gigawatt unaddressed opportunity for this operator to support. So what we did is co-invested in this company that needed the growth capital to scale the business alongside an Indian financial services specialist for a 5-year period. And it was our background in Indian climate finance that I think made us a very strong partner for this lender. So the structure of this deal was essentially going in together with a local finance institution. So bringing in more capital, but partnering with them around understanding local market conditions and having that local presence. And so this, I think, is a good example of a collaboration in order to finance the scale up of solar energy. Moving over to our real estate group. Our real estate group a few years ago formalized their identification of about 10 real estate return factors that will be affected by sustainability drivers. So the sustainability drivers being standards and policy, which could be regulations or voluntary codes, technology, so improvements in how buildings are actually built and run, and then shifting stakeholder expectations. So if I focus a little bit on the certifications element, efficient building can be part of the solution to the emissions that are contributed to global greenhouse gases by the built environment that can estimated to contribute up to 40% of global emissions. Efficient buildings, such as LEED certified buildings, can consume 26 to 30% less energy compared to conventional buildings. So in this context, the innovation and the energy savings are driven by structural design, efficiencies in energy use and waste management, air quality factors, etc. And these features in the real estate built environment context benefit both the landlords and the tenants. So we find that voluntary certifications encourage real estate owners and operators to implement energy, water, and waste saving measures, which ultimately directly help with reducing expenses and improve the comfort of occupants. And beyond these resource efficiencies, so the direct cost saved from being more efficient, what we've also found is that buildings with sustainability certifications have reported reduced maintenance and repair expenses. So the actual quality of the building and the maintenance of that building is more efficient as well, roughly 20% lower than average. And then this has a knock-on effect in terms of insurance companies offering improved policy rates to real estate owners and operators. And then that has a knock-on effect also to the valuation of the asset if you intend to then sell it. So while the voluntary systems remain mostly opt-in, new regulations, usually introduced at a country basis or in some cases state-based building regulations, can create sector-wide pressure to lift standards and to improve resource efficiency. On the technology side, we've seen that a combination of government incentives, private investment and technological breakthroughs have sparked a revolution in building technology that's covered everything from LED and efficient lighting to smart sensors that gather data that again feed into the energy use and waste management patterns of a building, the deployment of solar panels, again to offset energy costs. So we've seen that throughout a number of our properties in Australia, Japan, and in South Korea. We have also seen that tenant demand can be a key driver for sustainability and climate factors in the way we think about real estate. So properties that have sustainability features are seen as more desirable by tenants, improving occupancy rates, allowing owners or operators to charge a rent premium. And we also think that greener buildings can have lower financing costs. So if we look at buildings that have similar quality, but the ones, comparing the ones with green credentials compared to the ones with non-green credentials, we've seen a rent premium of around 3%, and conservatively an estimate of around tenant retention or higher occupancy rate of around 2%. So in terms of what this translates for us, just over 50% of our Asian property assets LEED, Development Bank of Japan Green Building or Green Star certified, Green Building Council of Australia Green Star certified. And we've recognized that these green buildings typically have better net operating income for several of the reasons that I discussed. If buildings that we acquire don't have the green certification at acquisition, we look to introduce it where it's relevant. What we find right now is that to operate in Australia, having a green building certification, green credentials is table stakes to operate in the market. It's a must-have. However, we're finding that many other Asian markets are much more nascent. And I think that introducing more rigor in the policy settings around the built environment could really help boost investment in this space. So finally, just quickly, I'll speak to a public equities, so large listed companies case study. One of our public equities teams is very focused on emerging markets and is actively looking for more carbon efficient companies to invest in. What we found in China is that given the emissions rate of China, biggest emitter in the world, but also given many of the top-down policy environment in China is creating increasingly a favorable environment to invest in renewable energy solutions. The policies of China, influenced by the Paris Agreement, are translating into national policies around the national carbon trading market and a national green certificate trading market. And by this year, China aims to save 50% of potential carbon emissions via renewable energy and is on track to meet this target. So what this chart demonstrates here is that the carbon price of, if you assume a 30 renminbi per ton carbon price, that this will have a positive upside impact on the valuations of renewable energy companies. And so our team is particularly interested in hydro. There's a few reasons for this. One is that the actual topography of China lends itself well to hydropower solutions. These are 3 major river systems around which we've invested in companies operating hydropower in these regions. Not many countries actually have the appropriate topography for hydropower to be commercially viable, but China is one of them. Beyond the topography, the actual bottom-up conditions for renewable energy investing in China have been improving through increased efficiency, production costs meeting grid parity, etc. The team estimates that hydro power can benefit up to, the earnings of these companies could benefit up to about 7% in the first year after the National Carbon Trading Scheme comes into force and is implemented. And that solar and wind will also benefit, but hydro in particular. We also think the lower interest rate environment and the stable water tariffs makes it very easy to have visibility into the cash flows of these companies. So that's an area where we're very active. In terms of the technology and the innovation, it's very much in these very large companies, it's very much focused on incremental efficiencies. So we've seen changes in the location of where hydro plants will be built that can improve the utilization of water to generate energy. In the case of one of our very large hydro investments, improved utilization has increased power generation by 10 billion kilowatts hour per year, or an increase of total power generation of 5%. So in a very power hungry, energy hungry country like China, that's very meaningful. I'll leave my remarks there and maybe we can pick up more in the Q&A. Over to you, Susumi-san.
Thank you, Emily. Very informative presentation, especially on focusing on investing point of view for energy transitions with some case studies, such as hydropower investing in China and solar scaling up, and also real estate building energy efficiency improvement. So accelerating financing in such area and attracting private sector are also very important for ADB. So since ADB has two arms, so one is public sovereign financing, but another one is private non-sovereign financing. So it's very important point of view for ADB. So thank you again. So let's move on to the next speaker. I would like to invite fourth speaker, Dr. ZQ Sui, Chief Researcher, Research Institute of Innovative Technology for the Earth. Dr. ZQ, may I hand over to you?
Thank you, Chair. My name is ZQ Sui. I'm a Chief Researcher in Lloyd. I'm very happy to join this workshop. Today, I will go a little deep about the CCS, CCUS technology. So my talk will focus on the way forward in Asia. Let me go to second slide. This slide shows the world first CCS project, Sleipner in North Sea. This is a very famous project. They produce natural gas, then inject byproduct CO2 into the deep formation. The amount for the CO2 storage is about 1 million tons per year. This project has been operated for 23 years safely. And this is an interesting case for the Southeast Asian country when they develop oil and gas field in their countries, because they will face the CO2 rich gas development. So this idea, the background for the CO2 storage in Silent Aquifer comes from the CO2 EOR, because in 1970s in North America, the oil companies, they inject CO2 into the oil field, try to recover more oil from the deep formation. During the process, it seems 40 to 70% of CO2 they inject the state remain in the reservoir. So this is a basic concept for the CO2 storage for the CO2 emission. So that's why many operators for the CCS projects always the oil and the gas companies. So let's look at this slide. So could it be could the CO2 CCS and the CCUS could be the game changer or the big role to store CO2 in deep formation? I showed the recycle here for the Asian countries. Due to the large population and the rapid economic growth and the high growth in energy and the CO2 emissions, I think for the Asian countries, the high growth energy demand and much CO2 will be emitted from the power sectors. So we have a chance to apply the CCS technology in Asian countries. What about the stage to make the CCS technology available? ADB report shows that the stage always starts with a pilot project, and then move to the second phase is demonstration the technology available, and then finally go to the commercial. This is a very interesting approach. Can tell people always we need to learning by doing, because in Asian countries compared to North America, we have less oil and gas field. If you look at the project, most of CCS projects operated in North America and Europe, and also the main operator are always the major oil gas companies. But look at the East Asian or Asian countries, only a small number of projects is on the way, and even Australia, Middle East, or I can say less projects in Southeast Asian countries. To make the CCS technology available, or which is a goal for the R&D development of this technology, I think Norway and the US collaboration shows an interesting goal is to realize a cost-effective solution for the full-scale CCS. And this solution can be achieved by an international perspective. And what about the progress in CCS in the storage? The idea is, the main comment is, much progress on CO2 storage already achieved, but still uncertainty remain. US DOE showed this, should comment here. We already understand, but we still have homeworks to do. In case of if we look at the cost issue, it still lies with capture, and risk issue lies with the storage. So when we discuss CO2 storage, always we have some, we will receive questions about the scale up for the 1 million ton, 2 million ton per year, and also how about the reliability, also as well as the performance. So my comment is, when we discuss the CO2 CCS, we can leave the R&D project focused on the cost issue to the CO2 capture, because most of the cost, a major part of the cost is because of the capture. And to make the CCS available, we needed to find the confidence from the storage. How to do that is, I think, demonstration is the only way to show the safety. Also, during the demonstration, we can integrate many technologies, also learning how to operate the CCS project. The main issue for the integration and the learning is there are two important issues: how to improve the storage efficiency, because when we found that at the storage sites, if we can make the storage more efficient, that means we can save the cost. And another one is about the advanced merchant technology. This means conventional technology works well, but we need to find another advanced one to cover all the issues for the longer term safety of the CO2 storage. So can we achieve the commercial storage? I show this slide is just want to emphasize this: to make the storage project available, there are many issues, not only the technology, but also the environmental points, financing, policy. Also, we need to let people understand it and let people accept the public acceptance, and also the regulations. This is my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. ZQ. A very informative presentation on exciting progress of CCS, CCUS technology development. So I know ADB has been supporting some CCUS demonstration project from a CCS fund and the Clean Energy Financing Partnership Facility. And I know still there are some challenges, as you explained. So to overcome the challenges, further international cooperation or collaboration beyond Asia and the Pacific would be needed, so that the way will be elaborated in the panel discussion later. Thank you again. So let's move on to the next speaker, fifth speaker. So I would like to invite Dr. David Banjarponchai, Professor of Electrical Engineering, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. So Professor David, may I hand over to you?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to present you my involvement to the CFIR projects. Today, I would talk about the potential of IoT and artificial intelligence in the energy management systems in factory, building, and community. I am affiliated with the Chulalongkorn University located in Bangkok, Thailand. Next, please. My talk is outlined as follows. Can you help change to next? Thank you. I will give an example of the case study of CUBEMS, Chulalongkorn University Building Energy Management Systems, which is application of IoT to smart buildings. And then I will talk about two flagship projects of CFIR. I would like to acknowledge Thailand Energy Conservation Promotion Fund and also JEITA. Okay. Next slide, please. For the CUBEMS projects, yeah, you know that Thailand is one big country at the center of ASEAN. Okay, the combine of the ASEAN 10 countries is 625 million people, and the combined GDP is ranked number 9 of the world. Next, please. This is a case studies of the CUBEMS. Okay, it's a platform which consists of both generation like PV, winds, and also batteries. And also we also install the digital meters which can measure the consumption of the electrical power, okay, of each room, each floor, and each building, okay, in the facility of Department of Electrical Engineering. We can also monitor the charging station for the EV, which is a future vehicles. Okay, even now that in Thailand we have a limited access to the EV, but we believe that there will be more and more of the electric vehicles, okay, worldwide. And this platform is based on the IEEE 12888, okay, with the collaboration with the University of Tokyo. And the platform can also report the energy consumptions to the users by the mobile applications, smartphone, and also through the internet web page. Okay. Next, please. The network architecture of the CUBEMS, okay, starting from the lower level, which means that it's connected to the device like the sensor. We store the multi-sensor in each room, like humidity, temperature, okay, light intensities, and also motion sensor. At the same time, we also monitor how much power that the PV on the rooftop of our buildings are generating the power, okay. And we also monitor, okay, the consumption of the power in each room, especially the AC, okay, and the conditioning systems. And all these data are connected, okay, to the line, okay, internet, and also go to the server. And from the servers, okay, it can share the data to the user by the mobile applications. Next, please. And these are the picture of the web-based, okay, information monitoring systems. You can see from the left top photos, okay, it shows the data consumption in real time. The green color means that it's in the level of acceptable region, okay. The yellow means that it's in the alert level, and it is in the range red color, it means that it's more than the expected amount of energy consumption. And this data can send to the user, okay, by the mobile application as well. And then on the top right, it shows the data, okay, on the floor level, okay, and the bottom left, okay, show the data in the building level, and the bottom left right, it shows the data of the power generations from all the resources like the PV and also from the wind, and also showing the status of the batteries. We can utilize all these facilities, okay, to do energy management system for the building to enhance the energy consumption, the energy improvements, and also do the peak cuttings, okay, or curtail of the peak power. Thank you. Next slide, please. And the two projects of CFIRS, okay, the first one is called Zero Energy Buildings. I think Ms. Saito already mentioned briefly. Okay, there are three step-by-step approach of the CEB. Okay, first one is a CEB ready. Okay, the second one is nearly CEB, and then the last one is a net CEB, which means that the ultimate goal is that we would like to have a net zero energy building. Okay, the energy that you produce in the building and the energies that you consume in the building are summed together and become zero. There may be some times that the exit power can exchange with the grid, okay, between inflow and outflow. And then there are three important milestones that are going and will be ongoing. The first one is the public-private collaboration on terms of the international standard. Okay. Now there is a working committees working on the draft of technical specification ISO 23764. Okay, this is an approach for the non-residential zero energy buildings. And the second one is a collaboration in terms of the capacity buildings. Okay, we'll share the best practice, okay, through the seminar and the workshops from the ASEAN and Japan. And the last one is ASEAN Energy Awards, okay, which has been added, okay, to the ASEAN Energy Awards, okay, since 2019. Okay. I think this one will aim for making the COP21 requirements to be achievable. The second project of the CFIR project is a Rankine control. Next slide, please. And this one is to address the society issue, including environmental GHG emission and energy saving. So it is a balancing between the energy generations and energy consumptions. Okay. In the figures, you see there are many utilities that use electricity, steam, chill water, or the pressure air. Okay. Among these, all the facilities use crude oils or LGN. Okay, you can manage the energy generation of this plant to be very effectively, okay, by using the Rankine. At the same time, for the maturing side, which is consumers, okay, you can also manage the energy on the demand side, okay, and then together with the left-hand side and the right-hand side, you can use the Rankine control as well to manage the balance between the generation and the consumptions. And the target here, it will be a quick win approach, which contribute the ASEAN CO2 reductions, okay, under the Paris Agreement. We can implement this by using the IoT and also the advanced control algorithms. I'd like to show some movements of the Rankine control in the next slides. So it's starting from the one facilities, okay? You can show the visualization and also the control. And then once the one facility is achieved, you can move to the multiple facilities, okay? With the same concepts like measurements, visualization, and also using the big data, okay, for the AI. So you can understanding the model of the systems between the user and the generation and the consumptions. And then we can move towards the multiple, okay, facilities and multiple utilities, okay, and moving toward the smart cities concepts, okay. And to this, it will be enhance the sustainability goal, okay, and will be managed to use the innovation of the IoT, okay, for the smart city. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, many thanks, Dr. Professor David. So very informative presentation. So it's a different aspect, IoT and AI from energy for energy management. So as we know, traditionally, ADB energy sector, we had a tendency to focus on hardware, such as generations and transmission distribution lines, conductors, etc. But nowadays, so we know software and digital solution. These are very important and key element as well as the hardware. And IoT and AI and other digital technology have been watched with keen interest. So to establish not only real smart grid, but also smart cities beyond the grid. So thank you again, Professor David. So now all presentation have done. Rest of the time is for panel discussion, and all 5 presenters are also panelists. So in addition to the 5 speakers from ADB, Shannon Collin will also join as a panelist. Before moving on to the panel discussion, so we would like to show a 1-minute short introduction video of Sofia Initiative, as Mizuki-san explained. So then hand over to Akira Izumo-san, who is the moderator of the panel discussion. So please run the video. Thank you.
Welcome back to the METI DDW Deep Dive Workshop. I'm Akira Izumo, METI. From now on, I will moderate this session. Now let's open the session to the panelists. Let me remind you that this DDW is particularly focusing on the importance of collaborative work through improving policy and institutional arrangement, utilizing public finance and private investment, and promoting international cooperation to develop and deploy low carbon technology or cleaner energy technology. So let's ask a couple of questions to the panelists. The first question is to Dr. Nuki Aguirre Abata, Executive Director of ASEAN Center for Energy, ACE. Good morning, Dr. Abata. Thank you for joining with us today. The very first question is to you.
Morning.
Morning. So what is the role of the ASEAN Center for Energy in facilitating energy transition in the ASEAN region? We have already heard some information during your presentation, but please further elaborate what you have already addressed, specifically highlighting the major outline and the content of the APEC Phase 2 to promote multinational cooperation and collaboration. In this context, please also tell us your plan or expectation about the future collaboration among ASEAN plus 3 countries, in particular through Sofia. Please answer my question.
Yes, thank you, Akira-san. Currently, the ASEAN is developing the ASEAN Plan of action for energy cooperation, phase 2, which is we finished the phase 1 this year and we will start phase 2 next year from 2021 up until 2025. The countries, the region will keep the theme of the enhancing energy connectivity and market integration in ASEAN to achieve energy security, accessibility, affordability, and sustainability for all. And for the second phase, a sub-theme added, which is accelerating energy transition and strengthening resilience through greater innovation and cooperation. Under the APEC phase 2, as will explore the potential for ASEAN power grid to accommodate the higher shares of EV. With achieving the target of 23% share in TPES, or total primary energy supply, and 35% share in ASEAN installed power capacities. ASEAN will enhance the EE&C efforts to achieve a more ambitious target of energy intensity reduction of 30% in APEC phase 1, and could be higher AI or energy intensity target in phase 2. EE&C policies and programs in the transport and industry sectors will step up to further accelerate energy transition towards sustainable energy future. If you're looking at those activities that we've been doing and we plan to do, you see the portion of energy transition in the next coming years is very important and will be our biggest activities, one of the biggest activities. And for decades, the plus 3 nation, China, Japan, and Korea, has been an important partner of ASEAN in accelerating the region's energy cooperation and development, including in enhancing energy efficiency and facilitating energy transition. And I think the importance of private sector is accelerating energy transition. ASEAN Pacific launched the Sofia, which is a very good platform for us. And the ASEAN Pacific will be very strong partner, giving a showcase and best practices, challenges, and solutions for the region. And under this platform, the ASEAN Pacific will implement Sofia flagship projects. For example, that we really looking forward is the smart grid, hydrogen economy, RENK, zero energy building, inclusion of IoT in EE and C, transportation sectors, corporate value to promote climate action and environment, social and governance, waste to energy, electricity vehicles to realize energy transition as well as economic growth. And of course, we hope that Sofia platform through ASEAN Pacific countries will be able to achieve a virtuous cycle of environment and growth through developing suitable business environment as well as promoting business-led disruptive innovation. I think that would be my answer to the first question. Yes, thank you. Back to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Very, very informative answer, and it's a very promising. If we can implement a very variety of activities under the APEC phase 2, and as well as through the Sofia programs. Now, let me ask a question to my colleague, Ms. Mizuki Saito, Deputy Director of METI's Global Environment Partnership Office. Good morning, Ms. Saito.
Morning.
Thank you for being with us. This is a question to you. So, what is the role of the government in promoting development and deployment of low carbon technology, such as CCUS, hydrogen, IoT, AI, and so on, in particularly emerging countries? What sort of policy or institutional arrangement do you believe need to be in place? What kind of government support can you provide, or can another government provide?
Thank you. So the number one goal of any government is to create a safe environment for the people now and for the future generations as well. So climate change is a big issue for all of us. And one of the difficulties of tackling this problem, even from the government's point of view, is that it is a mix of a wide range of issues from technology, innovation, policies, energy, business. And it's an important role for the government to get all those stakeholders on board. And one way to do that is for the government to set up a goal. And Japan has turned in our NDC, and hopefully a lot of other countries will follow. And another is to promote innovation, as Izumo-san said. New technology for mitigation and adaptation of climate change may cost a lot more than what the market can handle. And at home, we've set our strategy for environment innovation. And to actually meet the goal, we opened a new research center for zero emission technologies as well. So it's an international joint research center, and I think we'll be seeing a lot more global collaboration here. And also in terms of frameworks, we've put a lot of effort into joint crediting mechanisms where we cooperate with many ASEAN countries to put our low carbon technology into actual use. And the last point is I think it's also useful to look at how other areas are tackling their governance issues. For example, in the digital area where I used to be in a while ago, the governance of new technologies such as AI and IoT, big data, is a big issue in terms of privacy and security. And I think there's a lot we can learn from each other in those areas in terms of governance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive. Yeah, very useful, not only for us, but also other audience. So the next question. So yeah, we learned a lot from the ACE and the government initiatives, but in order to develop and deploy low carbon technology and or cleaner energy technology to accelerate the energy transition, we need to access to proper and enough financial arrangements and investment, namely money. In this context, I want to seek opinion and view of the private investor as well as the experts from the Asian Development Bank. The first question is given to Ms. Emily Chu, Global Head of Sustainability for Investment Management, Morgan Stanley. Hello, Emily.
Hello, Akira-san.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for joining this deep dive workshop. This is my question to you, Emily. From the private investor's standpoint, please tell us more about the trend and future perspective of ESG investment globally and specifically in Asia and Pacific. Please also tell us about your views on relevant private companies' behaviors, or I can say responses to follow such a trend, in particular to meet the expectation of the investors or customers as well as the other various stakeholders, for example, to address the SDGs or climate change issues. Now, how much do you see such a big movement, a global movement will accelerate the transformation of the global economy and society?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think the participation of private capital in accelerating clean energy it's critical for any new innovation to scale up and to become a dominant part of the economic fabric. What I can say is that large asset managers today, I mean, at least the top 100 or 200 largest asset managers by AUM today would see the integration of environmental, social, and governance characteristics, or ESG, as just a normal investing. It's just an expected part of how we invest. What that essentially means is that we are looking at all of our investments, so not just the companies, but the real assets, the private companies as well, even the government bonds, some of the kind of public instruments that we can invest in. We're looking at all of those things with this lens. And what's really become much more emphasized in the last 5 years since the Paris Agreement was adopted was the role of the finance and private sector in accelerating the achievement of the Paris goals. Both the Paris Agreement and the SDGs, when they were adopted around the same time in 2015, have spurred a lot of innovation in the finance sector to develop fund solutions and measurement and metric gathering systems so that we can now more systematically take into account and actually create models around sustainability data in a way that 10 years ago, this was not possible. So 10 years ago, it wasn't really possible to measure, for example, the carbon footprint of your portfolio, or to adopt a goal to say that we're going to put out a public equities portfolio that's Paris aligned, which means that over the next 10 years, we will commit to reducing our carbon emissions by, say, if it's Paris aligned in terms of the 1.5 degree goal, 45% reduction in carbon emissions of the underlying companies we invest in over the next 10 years. So the availability of data as well as the adoption of these global agreements, has very powerfully influenced the way financial innovation is now happening in this space. And what we are seeing is, I think, an unprecedented level of cooperation among large public institutions. So the institutions that are our clients, whether it's the big public pension funds or the sovereign wealth funds, they are looking to allocate capital into climate solutions more than ever before. They are approaching us to have those conversations proactively. So they're not just looking to buy something off the shelf, buy a fund product off the shelf. They're actually looking for partners among the asset management community to help create and fashion these solutions. And they are themselves collaborating in a way that we've never really seen before by joining certain initiatives together to signal to one another, as well as to signal to us as their service providers what they're aiming to achieve from a real economy perspective. So some of those examples are for the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance, which launched less than a year ago, already has over 20 members globally. These are large pension funds which are saying that we commit to making our investments net zero carbon by 2050. We don't know how we will get there, but that's our goal. Mm-hmm. And now that we've set that goal, we will now start to proactively look for these investments, work with the asset managers, and we will commit to reporting on that goal. We've also seen the One Planet Sovereign Wealth Fund initiative, which is very similarly adopting a climate framework for very large sovereign wealth funds. And then what you also see on the regulator side is a lot of action. So we're seeing securities commissions start to introduce ESG reporting as compulsory for the underlying companies that we invest in. To some extent, that's also extending to fund managers as well. So in the EU, there's a major finance legislation package right now, which is coming into play in Q1 next year, that will require everyone who is selling or operating financial products in Europe to disclose their ESG metrics that they use for their investment process and how exposed their funds are to sustainability risks. So there's an increasing amount of scrutiny, availability of data, regulatory requirements and pressure that I think is accelerating a lot of very positive forces, creating a virtuous cycle on the finance side. But with that said, we still need a lot more leadership from policymakers and from governments in this space. We still need a lot of incentives for entrepreneurs, to be innovating at that very early stage, and we still need a lot of partnership from the civil society sector as well. And the way I see it is that everyone needs to play their role in this integrated space.
Thank you very much. Very much informative and very much lot of information, and we can take away from the session. Well, thank you very much, Emily. So I would also want to ask another question from the financing point of view. Let me ask a question to Ms. Shannon Howing, Senior Energy Specialist of the Asian Development. Hello, Shannon.
Hello, Akira-san.
Hi, good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Thank you for inviting me to join these panelists.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. So this is a question to you, Shannon. What is the most significant role of the Asian Development Bank in promoting global energy transitions? In addition to the renewable energy, for instance, do you think the CCUS or IoT technology that we discussed here will be a new driving forces? Or if yes, what kind of support can be provided by the ADB? If not, please describe any challenges or obstacles to deploy these technologies and give us any solution to address such challenges from the ADB's standpoint. Shannon?
Thank you very much. What ADB can bring that's maybe a little bit different is we can bring both knowledge and financing and really help introduce new technologies or new business models in emerging markets. And so when we're talking about earlier stage technologies, our assistance is more heavily weighted on the knowledge side of things, where we'll provide substantial technical assistance, road mapping, piloting and demonstration well in advance of getting to where we're actually financing projects. But then when we see technologies that are more widely deployed, we can come in with the financing to help scale those up. And we've done this in particular with solar in several Asian markets, where we have provided the early road mapping assistance, and then later on been able to provide financing on the sovereign side of the bank, where we provide transmission expansion, and then on the non-sovereign side, where we're actually financing the power plants themselves. But our goal in doing that then is actually just to catalyze the market, demonstrate the bankability of the technology, and then allow for commercial financing to come in. And so that's really sort of the arc of our assistance that we'd like to see is our entry and then our exit, but really providing a lot of that knowledge assistance up front. In terms of the technologies that you mentioned, I 100% think that both of them, CCS and IoT, are going to be critical going forward. Every climate stabilization scenario has a significant role for CCUS, and there's been under deployment relative to where we need to be. Given the drastic price declines in renewable energy technologies, I think it's less relevant in the power sector, but there are some industrial sectors that are very, very difficult to decarbonize, where CCUS could be really, really critical in achieving our emission reductions. So I think that's really important. And then, of course, with IoT, as was demonstrated in the Bangkok study, and also I think in the ASEAN work, it's going to be really critical for system management, both on the supply and the demand side. In terms of the barriers that we see, a common theme across a few different technologies that I've seen is the lack of regulatory frameworks when new technologies are introduced. And I think that can be even more critical than incentives, because if there is no regulatory clarity, you can come with 100% grant finance and you can still have your project completely stopped. And so we spend a lot of time trying to formulate clear regulatory frameworks with our partner governments to allow introduction of new technologies. But then there's also the awareness piece, right? I think in terms of priorities, there are a lot of different challenges that developing countries are contending with. And maybe a technology like IoT or CCUS may not seem like it should be their highest priority when they're dealing with social protection issues. And so I think we have to make sure that we're bringing science and impacts and into the discussion with our governments and helping them understand the value proposition for introducing those technologies as well. So in the interest of time, I'll stop there, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, for that purpose, we launched the Sofia and the Cleaner Energy Future Initiative for ASEAN to collaborate with each other by calling for the different players like the financial sectors, the government and the investors, and of course the industry people. So it's a great opportunity for us to discuss such issues here in this workshop. So let's move on to because we run out of time, but we may have a couple of questions, but because there's still two panelists that are waiting for. So I would like to ask a question to Dr. Ziku Zue, Chief Researcher of the Research Institute of Innovative Technology for the Earth, Light, and also Dr. David Banja Bonchai. The first question is given to Dr. Zue. Good morning, Dr. Zue.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you for joining with us today. So my question is do you think that the CCUS is a promising technology? And please elaborate more on the significant potential of CCUS to meet the global needs for energy transition and climate action. And recognize that there are some challenges to deploy the CCUS technology, like Shannon already mentioned. But what kind of positive elements of the CCUS technology do you really want to emphasize? Dr. Xu?
Thank you. I think CCS is a most promising technology for the massive CO2 emission reduction because the oil and the gas companies already has many experience to inject CO2 into the oil field to recover the oil. Also, the Sleipen project also shows a good example. They can store CO2 1 million tons per year. It's very attractive. And for the Asian countries, I think they needed to use the fossil energy. That means they have to store CO2. So at the early stage, because just to inject CO2 into the saline aquifer doesn't make it business. So I think the available way is let them allow them to inject CO2 in the oil field to recover the oil, because this is a practical way for the Southeast Asian country to trade off some cost during CO2 injection. And also, the Asian country, they need to separate the CO2 from the natural gas field. For example, under one project between Indonesia and Japan, they're thinking to use already separate CO2 to store the CO2 in the deep formation. But to make it happen, for Japan, I think we need to support the Indonesian side to do the CO2 storage operation. To make the CO2 storage available, it's not only the technology, but also the public acceptance. We always emphasize CCS is local risk or local concern, but benefits the global. So to make it happen, we needed to show the storage project safety through the pilot project or demonstration project. Also, throughout the demonstration project, I think the country experts can learn much from the operation to understand how to upscale of the CO2 injection, also to downsize the CO2 storage cost. We are developing several important technology. For example, once you use another technology, like us, where you inject CO2 in different way, can make the CO2 storage efficiency up to 20%. That means if you apply this technology to EOR, you can recover 20% more oil from the field. It's very beneficial to the operator. And the other way is because the CCS is different with the oil and the gas sector. They need to take care, even they stop the CO2 injection for long term. That means we need advanced technology to keep monitoring the CO2 which we inject in the subsurface safely. We are working on a new technology. This is really new, but it's very attractive also to the oil and the gas companies. We use optical fiber sensing. This is a new one, can cover, just one cable can cover many different technologies. For example, you can use one cable to measure temperature, to measure strain, to look for the CO2 plume in the subsurface. Compared to the conventional technology, this can save the cost very much. So I think for the Asian countries, the best way to achieve the CO2 storage available is to share the knowledge with the leader players like Japan, also Asia and other countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed that we can work together to deploy the CCS technology with many, not only Asian countries, but also many other countries in the world. Thank you very much, Dr. Su. And the last question is given to Dr. Banja Bonchai. Hello, David. David is here.
Hello. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice to meet you again.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So the question to you is that the IoT AI technology can be utilized and applied for a wide variety of purposes, like you mentioned during the presentation, and in the factory, industry, or community, and maybe probably in the future, a society as a whole. So please tell us your ideas on how to deploy such a technology in a much bigger scale, like highlighting the role of university, because you belong to the university, and not only for the education, but not only for the R&D. Probably the government, university could play a significant role to create a partnership or collaborative work among industry, government, and university to drive such a technology. So please tell us about your idea.
Thank you for your questions. It is indeed important for university has play an important roles into driving the society to measure of the CO2 emission reductions, as well as to improve the energy efficiency in our daily lives. You know that energy intensity is kind of one important measure to know how efficiency that utilize the energy usage in terms of the productions that you have produced. And in nowadays, okay, IoT and AI has play an important role to help us to measure, okay, the data, for example, the energy usage as well as the energy generations. So I think in our role as a university, we can utilize our R&D, okay, to do the energy management systems in terms of to categorize, okay, and also to understand the behaviors, okay, of the generations. For example, the PV, okay, the photovoltaic generations, you know that is a very intermittent and also unpredictable. But we can use the AI in order to understand the measurements of the power as well as the meteorological data from the weather's information center. It will enhance us to understand, okay, the characteristics of the power generations from the renewable sources. And at the same time, for the user or the consumptions, okay, we can also use the meter, electrical energy meters, to understand the behavior of the consumption sides. And in these two cases, okay, from the generation and the user or the demands, so we can do the management very effectively. So the know-how of the model predictive control or advanced process control can enhance us to do the energy efficiency. And I believe that this is also a key tool for the zero energy buildings, okay, that we can use this AI and advanced control to achieve the goal. So as a university, okay, we can produce a quality of engineers, okay, to serve in the industry, okay, to provide the solutions. At the same time, we also do the master and PhD, okay, dissertations that can also capture what it will be the future innovations that can solve the current issues and also the future, okay, directions. And we also work with the regulator at the Thailand's Energy Ministry of Energies. And that also very important aspect that we can provide some of the technical implementations that can serve to the policy makers. Okay, you know, everything that it will be launched to the industrial sector or to the society have to be realistic. Okay, so that is my answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. It's very good answer, because not only the government ourselves, but also the university they take an initiative and a strong role in developing and creating the collaborative work and the partnership among the different players. Thank you very much for your answer. So time running up, but we need to take a few questions from the global audience. May I take a few questions? One question. Let me see. Yeah, this is to Emily. So this question is: what are the major thresholds or project characteristics are you looking at when deciding, when make a decision to invest in a clean energy project? Do you have any clear, like a major threshold to decide whether or not you can invest something in a clean energy project?
Well, it depends on the asset class. So as I mentioned earlier, there's so many different forms of investment, even at a large firm like ours. when we're looking at, say, public equities, even within publicly listed companies, there's different styles of investing. So we may be looking at companies for a particular fund where the style of the manager is focused on growth. So we'll be looking at how quickly and how sustainably can that company grow. In contrast, you may be looking for an undervalued company. So a company that has maybe strong cash flows, strong visibility into the future of those cash flows, but for whatever reason is not valued very highly in the public markets. And so you're looking for an opportunity to buy and for that to grow along with as the valuation of that company is realized. So you'd be looking at the PE ratio in that case. If you're looking at, say, more on the private market side, so the direct investments, it's very much depends on the project. So what is the quality of the management team? What's the scalability of the technology? What is the addressable market? So is there a market that they can connect to? What are the various other partners that are going to help them connect to that market? What is our exit strategy? So what's the likelihood that we'll be able to exit over a 5 to 7 year period? So all of these different characteristics. And then if we're looking at the bond side, if we're looking at financing debt, we've developed our own framework for essentially assessing the greenness of the bond. So is it clear how the proceeds of the bond will be used to improve to actually implement an energy efficiency project or to improve the clean energy profile of that company? And is there public reporting that is going to be available that will validate the use of proceeds? So all of these kinds of factors depend. So I don't want to give you too much of a "it depends" answer, but it really does depend on the investment style and the asset class, particularly for us because we're so big. We don't have one particular investment thesis that we focus on.
Thank you very much. I hope that your answer is properly enough deliver the message to the question from the audience. So now I want to close this session. I want to thank you all the panelists for your cooperation and contributions. It was indeed interesting and informative. We need to have the physical meetings, and we may extend more. And not 1.5 is not enough, but it's good to have this kind of deep dive workshop. So let me wrap up this session in a few seconds. But before that, let me summarize this session. During this session, the role of each player, including the government, the private sector, researcher, academia, as well as international organizations such as ACE and ADB were explained. The importance of collaborative activities and initiatives such as Sofia or TCFD was emphasized and highlighted. And the current status and the potential of CCUS, hydrogen, IoT technology was addressed and discussed. And finally, the strategy or importance for the creation of the appropriate business environment and the penetration of green finance and investment were shared and discussed, and we completed our mission. So currently we are facing significant challenges caused by COVID-19 pandemic. However, we believe that we will be able to bring back our community and society better and accelerate the energy transition through maintaining and strengthening our collaborative work. Now, I will give the microphone to Mr. Toshiaki Nagata, Director of Global Environment Partnership Office of METI, for his closing remarks. Mr. Nagata, can you hear me?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you,
please make your statement.
Thank you very much. It was a short but highly exciting debate, and thank you for that. On behalf of the co-organizing team of this workshop, I would like to some closing remarks. First of all, let me extend my bottom-hearted gratitude to Dr. Zai, Susumu-san, and other colleagues at Asian Development Bank for having provided us with this precious opportunity. It was a wonderful experience to work with you as a co-organizing team. I can say that this was the most smooth event operation I've ever observed since the crisis has spread globally. I would also like to thank very much all the speakers and participants who have enriched today's discussion. I understand that this was the first attempt in the ASEF history that the entire sessions and events were organized in a web format. It was unfortunate that we could not meet and discuss face-to-face, but the fact that many people, I believe more than 200, had registered as audience of this event, and that we had fruitful discussion today demonstrated a new form of success in organizing events in a new normal. We are now standing in front of a critical juncture. Energy transition, sustainable development, environment protection, climate change. None of these issues is necessarily a new one, but we have already invested tremendous efforts in addressing these global issues for decades now. However, faced with a new reality where we must exist with COVID-19, these global issues show us new dimensions, driving us towards different kinds of challenges. As we recognize the need for engaging in different levels of commitments, this particular event took place at the very right moment. Mindful of the time, I don't intend to repeat what has been discussed, but I do want to highlight a couple of bold messages stemmed from today's discussion as a takeaway. The first point is critical importance of innovation in pursuing cleaner energy transition. There were good discussions on specific technologies such as CCUS or IoT, but in more general, innovative technologies need to be brought to a deployment stage, and we see that this is actually happening. Among others, one of the key enablers for such innovations to come to a reality is finance. There was a general sense shared at this session that private finance is becoming increasingly important. Public finance, of course, has its role to play, and it will need to be better utilized to mobilize private finance for more sustainable finance. The second point is a need for all actors to come together and do their parts in addressing the global issues. We collectively constitute essential part of a whole picture, each of which cannot be replaced by others. However, only doing our own part in silo will not work, and cooperation and collaboration will be a key to success. One of the aims of this event was to provide an opportunity where players from different fields could enhance their awareness on possible ways of cooperation and collaboration through sharing views and experiences. I observed that the aim was successfully done. Much more will be achieved through various initiatives, including Sofia. Lastly, but not the least, we must recognize that there's still a long way to go in front of us. Technologies need to progress further in a commercial scale, finance to be further mobilized both in public and private, policies to be better designed to form the robust basis for the entire efforts, and cooperation and collaboration to be further enhanced both domestically and internationally. While this workshop was a great success, it was only a start of a long journey. I hope you would take all the good presentations and discussions back home and make them your source of energy to address the challenges towards the transition. Let's meet again next year in the next ASEF to share success stories and remaining challenges, including the progress on APIC. To conclude my remarks, once again, let me express my sincere appreciation for all who contributed to the event and wish you all the best, very best and health. Thank you so much. Back to Akira-san. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nagata. It's a pity, but now the time has come to close this deep dive workshop. Again, thank you very, very much to all the panelists and the global audience for sparing your precious time and staying with us until the last moment. I decided that this METI DDW closed. Thank you very much.